Immediately following my high school graduation, I began working at a textile production plant. After 17 years, I was promoted to plant manager. At that point, the CEO gave me an absurd directive. Hold on a second. Do you mean that I've been fired? Well, yeah, that's right. Being abruptly fired was beyond me. Even though the CEO was the happiest person when I took over as plant manager and there were no accidents or incidents while I was in charge, I was unable to understand why. When I questioned, the CEO refused to provide an explanation. The CEO's secretary abruptly called me in one day, and I was about to hear an incredible tale. It was a sad and touching story that concealed the reason I was fired from the organization. You've been fired, right? Why are you still here, an outsider? Mike is my name. I've been employed at this textile manufacturer's business for 17 years since I graduated from high school. I have been awarded with the role of plant manager since last year. Everything has been going well at the plant since I took over as manager, and there haven't been any mishaps. Despite such conditions. Hold on a second. Does this imply that I'm going to lose my job? I spoke loudly as I addressed the CEO. Indeed, that is the case. I've already set up your next employment, so don't worry. The CEO told me. I truly want you to give it your all there. I left my hometown and started working for this corporation as soon as I graduated from high school. Naturally, I was nervous and didn't know anyone there, but the staff was really welcoming and I quickly adapted. Since I was a new employee, the CEO, who started the company, took care of me since he said that our histories were comparable. I worked frantically, giving my all at work, hoping to meet the CEO's high standards. I believed that we shared a unique link, but perhaps I was mistaken. What did I do wrong? I inquired. The CEO gave a headshake. I apologized deeply, but I would rather you didn't inquire as to why. You'll do well in your new position, though, given your skill set. They ought to treat you properly, because the president there is a really kind person. I have to go now since I have a meeting. With that, the CEO left the room. I wasn't convinced at all, but if it was an order from the CEO, I had no choice but to comply. No matter how much I argued, I had to follow. As I headed to the plant, I thought about what would come next. In the time leading up to my resignation, I was swamped with handing over my work and completing the resignation procedures. Since being told I was being let go by the CEO, I've racked my brain for a reason countless times, but couldn't come up with anything. I was troubled about moving to a new job with this unresolved feeling. Then one evening, with just a week left until my resignation, I was getting ready to leave when I received a phone call. It was from the CEO's secretary, Emily. Hello, is this Mike? It's Emily. I'm sorry to bother you when you're busy, but there's something urgent I really need to tell you. It's difficult to say this inside the office, so could you come to the coffee shop nearby? Emily had been the CEO's secretary since I joined the company. She's a beautiful and capable woman. We usually don't interact much, but she's always been kind to me during company events and such. Wondering why I was being called out by Emily, I headed to the coffee shop as instructed. Sorry to keep you waiting. No, I should be the one apologizing. I'm sorry for suddenly calling you out when you're busy. There's something I absolutely need to tell you. Emily usually has a bright expression, but on this day, she looked inexplicably sad. What's going on? It's about our CEO, Thomas. Actually, after saying that, Emily fell silent. There was silence for a moment, and at last, Emily went on. Mike, please stay calm as you hear this. This morning, Thomas passed away. What? I dropped the glass I was holding to the floor. The truth is, Thomas had been battling an illness for a long time. There were times when it seemed to get better, but last week his condition worsened. No way. That can't be true. Not many people know about Thomas's passing yet. The company currently stands on Thomas's reputation, so we can't immediately go public with this information. Likely, our company will have to close down with the CEO's passing. I was shocked and wondered why Emily chose this moment to tell me this fact. But why would you share such important news with me? There was something Thomas had told me. If anything were to happen to him, he wanted me to tell you first. He thought of you like his own son. Hearing this, I remembered the first time I met the CEO. I was an only child and lived with my father and mother. In high school, my father passed away due to an illness, and since my mother had always been frail, I couldn't let her work. So I decided to find a job instead of going to college as planned. However, it was a bad time, and all the companies had already closed their general applications, making it hard to find a job. My homeroom teacher desperately reached out to several companies on my behalf. That's when the CEO, having learned about my family situation, decided to take me under his wing. When I graduated from high school and got a job at this company, the CEO approached me. "You're Mike, right? I heard about your father's passing from HR. It must have been tough. I also lost my father around your age and had to work to support my family. Our circumstances were so similar. I couldn't help but be concerned about you. You are excellent in school and will greatly benefit our company, so give it your all." I was comforted by the CEO's warm words and threw myself into my work more than anyone else after joining. The CEO always watched over me kindly. David, who was the plant manager at the time, also took great care of me. "So you're Mike. I've heard about you from Thomas, but I can't give you special treatment. So work hard and follow along. I'll train you to be competent." David was a strict man, but I could feel his care in crucial moments. Whenever I struggled with my task, he would put his own work aside to teach me. I probably owe my appointment as plant manager to David. Emily, the secretary, helped me, an introverted and shy person, by introducing me to senior colleagues from other departments. Thanks to her, it became easier to coordinate with other departments, making my work more efficient. In this way, I was nurtured into a competent individual with the support of many staff members. I wouldn't have been elected the plant manager on my own. After my inauguration speech as plant manager, the CEO said to me, "Congratulations on becoming the plant manager. You were a new employee a decade ago, and now you're the plant manager. I don't have children, but I always wished for a capable son like you." I still vividly remember the CEO speaking happily. As I reminisced about the CEO, Emily offered me a handkerchief. "Mike, don't cry." Before I knew it, I was crying. I haven't been able to repay Thomas for everything yet. There was so much I wanted to say, but I couldn't utter anything more. "Let's express our feelings to him at the funeral the day after tomorrow," she said, and then we left the coffee shop. On the day of the funeral, I was helping Emily at the reception when a noisy group approached. It was the vice president and his entourage of employees. Then, spotting me, the vice president said, "Huh, is that Mike over there? You've been fired, haven't you? What's an outsider doing here?" He said this with a smirk on his face. At some point, the vice president and his clique of employees had become adversaries of the CEO, and rumors were circulating that the vice president might take over the company. The company was in trouble, and its reputation was suffering because of the vice president's aggressive sales tactics. As a result, the company had accumulated a significant amount of debt. Ignoring the vice president's words, I continued to help Emily. But then, the vice president and his group started talking loudly. The CEO was a terrible man, wasn't he? He had to pass away without saying anything and had been trying to ruin the company. He glanced at my face as he said this. "In that respect, you're lucky you got fired before the company went bankrupt. Though, unemployed suits you better than part-time worker." I was holding back my frustration when the CEO's wife appeared, drawn by the commotion. "Enough, you all. Do you even understand who's to blame for my husband having to file for bankruptcy?" Emily, who was standing next to her, continued, "John, this is all your fault. Do you have any idea how much Thomas cleaned up after you?" The vice president looked surprised and overwhelmed. "Have you forgotten about the suspension of business with that major menswear company? That was because of your forceful sales, which lost the company its credibility, right? The company has only been able to endure this long because of the CEO's support. Everyone knows you were trying to make the company your own." Then the vice president started speaking defiantly. "Wait a minute. I have no attachment to this company. If it's going to collapse, it should just collapse quickly. We'll take our severance pay and quit right away." With that, the vice president and his group left. Indeed, as John said, I apologize for being here after quitting the company. I have no power to do anything. What are you saying? You've done nothing wrong. You're Mike, right? When my husband was alive, he always talked about you. He even joked when he was drunk. Mike is like my son. Once again, I thought of the CEO and couldn't help but cry. And so, the funeral was somehow conducted without incident. Months passed, and today was my first day at a company introduced to me by Thomas. After much deliberation, I decided to join this company. Upon arrival, I knocked on the door of the president's office to introduce myself. "I am Mike, starting work here today. I came to introduce myself." The president slowly looked up, and to my surprise, someone I never expected was waiting there. "What? Why are you here?" It was Emily, the secretary. "Mike, I've been waiting for you." "Why is Emily here?" I asked in a panic. Let me introduce myself again. I am Emily, the president of this company, she said with a smile. There was a good reason for your resignation, she began to explain. The CEO had quickly predicted that the textile industry was in danger due to the vice president's schemes and the recession. With his illness, he had decided to close the company. While working as a secretary, Emily had been attending business school, harboring the dream of starting her own business someday. The CEO supported her, and a few years ago, she was able to start her own company. Thanks to Thomas, who introduced many clients to me, I was able to get this company off the ground quickly. I was speechless at the sudden turn of events. Thomas had a dream of passing his company on to me, Mike, but that became impossible. He was most concerned about me, which is why he introduced me to Emily's company. I'm also happy to have you here, Emily said. Learning about this background, I felt the warmth of the CEO anew. There's something I'd like you to do right away. I want you to be my right-hand man and support this company with me. Unfortunately, this is also Thomas's wish, so you can't refuse, Emily said with a smile. But am I really up to the task? I asked. That's perfectly fine. I've called in a great helper. Then there was a knock at the door, and entering was, what? David? Why are you here? You took early retirement, right? I'm getting on in years and didn't want to start over at a new company. But Thomas and Emily insisted, so I decided to work here reluctantly. Well, I'll be here to train you hard. With David, who had trained me to be competent, I felt I could manage. David, Mike here is a senior, having even been a manager. Oh yeah, that's right. You became a manager after I retired. Then, let's make a good company together, the three of us. That will be the best way to repay Thomas. Understood. I look forward to working with you guys, I said. Overwhelmed by emotion, I burst into tears. Come on, don't cry. You're not a child. From now on, we'll work hard so we can shed tears of joy together. Encouraged by Emily's words, I nodded vigorously. Working hard here would undoubtedly be my way of repaying Thomas. Surely, he's watching over us from heaven. We exchanged a firm handshake and began to open a new chapter together.